Welcome back to another episode on the Ace for Waves podcast with me, Annabelle. Today's very special because it is the 20th episode. If I had confetti, I would just like make it appear on screen. But it is the 20th main episode on the podcast. I have a very special episode planned to celebrate our 20 episodes here, and it's going to be a bit different than what I've done on main episodes before. Most, I think almost all of the main episodes from episode 1 up to 19 have been centered around sports. This is technically a sports podcast for me. I remember my very first episode, I talked about the Waste Management Open and Big 12 basketball back in February of 2024. So it's been around here for well over a year now. And throughout these main episodes, we've talked about golf, we've talked about the Big 12, we've talked about college basketball, the NBA, and quite a bit about the NFL. I've tried to expand just beyond certain sports. Episode 16, I did with my brother who came up to visit me one weekend, and we did an episode talking about sports media and kind of the overconsumption and oversaturation of media within sports. That was a bit different. It required a little bit more research on my end. I made my brother do some research too, so we would have facts and statistics to back up our claims. And I really liked that format because I liked talking about stuff that was a little bit beyond my comfort zone and my knowledge. Our last episode last week, I did a tier list ranking the NFL teams to kind of commemorate the start of the NFL season. I'm probably going to stick back to sports for main episodes going forward. As I said, this is just kind of a celebration of 20 episodes, and I wanted to do something fun and special there. And what better way to celebrate than learning just a little bit about me and my personality? So, we are going to take a personality test. For audio only listeners, you're just going to hear me talk about my answers essentially. But if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm going to have the screen pulled up and you can kind of see my answers there and hear me talk about them in more detail and more, I guess, in depth. So, without further ado, let's get things started with a personality test. I'm really excited for this one, guys. Really excited. So here we go. If you're watching this on YouTube or video, you can see my screen pulled up here. This is the personality test. And if you're listening to this on audio only, I'll read out the questions out loud so you can still hear them. But the first thing is you regularly make new friends. And we have bubbles here ranging from like strong agrees to heavily disagree. I say my I think it's a middle disagree for me here. I say it's a middle disagree because I don't regularly make new friends. I have friends and they've been some of my closest friends for a very long time, but I'm just not someone who goes out of my way to seek out new friends. I'm very shy in that regard. I don't really like getting out of my comfort zone that often. So I'm going to say a middle disagree for that question. Next one. Complex and novel ideas excite you more than simple and straightforward ones. That's that's tricky because I do love the idea of a complex and novel idea. They do excite me, but I'm also someone who really loves simple and straightforward ones and can make them creative and make them kind of complex and novel when I can use my imagination a bit. I'm gonna say here, I'm gonna say I'm gonna say a slight disagree because I do love those novel ideas. They do excite me, but I think a simple idea excites me just a little bit more. when I have something that I can boost and be more creative on. You usually feel more persuaded by what resonates emotionally with you than by factual arguments. Ooh, I I think I'm again, I think that's a slight disagree again. Like I do feel what resonates emotionally with me. That's absolutely true. But if someone presents the facts to me and I have the facts right there, I'm usually more persuaded by that. But I'm going to say a slight disagree. Your living and working spaces are clean and organized. Ooh, that's a hard one for me because it's really, I would say the living space is not organized in the slightest bit. I'm very messy in that regard there. But my working spaces, whenever I'm working stuff, those things are organized to my liking and how I like to organize things. And they are kept pretty clean because I just like having that working environment to be as clean and organized and that what resonates with me personally. But the living spaces is absolutely not true at all. So I'm going to go with a neutral on this one. Like I said, I think the living spaces are not clean and organized. That would be a strong disagree. But my working spaces are most definitely are leaning towards the agree section. So we're just going to go neutral there to balance those out. You usually stay calm even under a lot of pressure. I say that's true. I'm going to say a middle agree for that. I do think I stay calm under a lot of pressure. I don't like to make my nerves well known on the outside. I think it's very kept internally. And I do stay calm. I try not to let those nerves get the best of me. And even if I'm under a lot of pressure, either at work or even at home, for example, I try to stay calm so that way I know how to feel and know how to handle a situation better. So I'm going to say a middle agree for that. Not a strong agree, a middle agree. You find the idea of networking or promoting yourself to strangers very daunting. That is a strong agree for me right there. I don't like promoting myself to strangers in the slightest bit. It does scare me. And the idea of networking still terrifies me to this day, even though I've been making videos and doing a podcast for well over a year. It still scares me. And even just the idea of sending out resumes to people and stuff, that is networking. And it's kind of daunting. So I have to go with a strong degree. Up next, you prioritize and plan tasks effectively, often completing them well before the deadline. That's a disagree for me. Sometimes I'll complete tasks before the deadline, but more often than not, I don't. So it's a slight disagree there. People's stories and emotions speak louder to you than numbers or data. I think I do like to see the numbers and the data. I like to see kind of the stats and how things kind of line up from one year to the next or from one month to the next too. Having that visual helps me so I can see. I'm not someone who can just go based off of words and numbers. If I have something in front of me and I have a clear visual, that helps me picture it in my mind a lot better. But people's emotions and stories do speak to me. I love hearing them talk about what they have gone through or what some of their personal experiences have been like. It's something that I feel I have gotten better at as I've gotten older. I'm gonna go with a slight agree on this one here because I do feel like those stories speak louder to me more than numbers do as of this moment in time. You like to use organizing tools like schedules and lists. I think this depends. I really do think this depends. If I'm at work or if I have stuff at work, having a schedule absolutely helps me because then can see very clearly what I'm supposed to do, what time I am supposed to do things. So that way I stay on task and I don't let other people down within the company or the organization. Lists, however, are tricky because I do not really like lists. When I see stuff that I have to do at home or around the house, having the a long list of things scares me and makes me afraid to even look at lists because I don't feel good just checking stuff off. Because then I just have lots of scribbles on a paper and then it kind of messes my mind up even more. So I'm gonna go with a slight agree on this one too. I do think schedules are absolute. I love to use schedules because again, it helps me stay on track and organized. Lists, however, will be in the very, very heavily disagree section. So I'm gonna go with a slight agree here. I still will use lists if I have stuff that I need to do, even though I don't really like them, but I will still use them when necessary. Even a small mistake can cause you to doubt your overall abilities and knowledge. Unfortunately for me, that is a strong agree. I do think a small mistake can cause me to doubt my overall abilities and knowledge. I tend to overthink things pretty heavily. I'm still trying to work on that and not letting those mistakes get the better of me. But it will cause me to doubt my abilities for sure. You feel comfortable just walking up to someone you find interesting and striking up a conversation. That is a strong disagree for me. Again, I don't like talking to strangers. I am not even comfortable just walking up to someone that I have never met and telling them hello. That gives me a lot of social anxiety. I don't think I would ever just walk up to someone and strike up a conversation if I have never met them in my life. That was true back in high school for me, and it's still true now. So strong disagree. You are not too interested in discussions about various interpretations of creative works. I love creative works. They are one of my favorite things ever. I'm a very creative person and a very artistic person at that. But again, having to talk to people about what I like does not necessarily come easy to me. But I'm gonna say I'm not strong. I'm gonna say a slight disagree here. You're not too interested in discussions about various interpretations of creative works. I'm gonna go with a slight disagree. I think I am interested in discussions there, but it just depends on the person and the crowd if I know them. You prioritize facts over people's feelings when determining a course of action. I think that's a middle agree for me. I do take people's feelings into account and into consideration, but like I mentioned earlier, when the facts are there, I have to go based off of the facts instead. But so I think that's a middle agree there. You often allow the day to unfold without any schedule at all. I think that's a slight agree here. If I do have a schedule, I will stick to that schedule and make sure I have points that I need to hit by a certain time or by certain like deadlines, whatever. But more often than not, I do allow the day to unfold without a schedule. I will write out stuff that I want to do. So that's kind of like a schedule, I guess, in a way. But I also just like to go full impromptu and whatever I feel like doing, I'll do it. So, slight agree. You rarely worry about whether you make a good impression on people you meet. I think that's a strong degree for me here. I don't really care. Maybe care is not the right word. I'm not really worried about whether or not I make a good impression on people. I just try to present myself how I present myself to people that I know or people that have known me well. I don't try to change my personality or try to change some of my features just so I look good to people or look good networking to other people. I don't really care about that too much. If I just stick to who I am without trying to be a person that I'm not, then I think that's just a healthy mindset to have. And that's a healthy way of going about networking and promoting yourself. That's a strong agree for me there. You enjoy participating in team based activities. I think that's a strong disagree for me there. I like doing I like doing activities on my own where I can work at my own pace and I can go with how my mind and my brain is operating. I do I will work in teams. I've had to work in teams before at school and even just outside of school too. I know some work companies and some organizations are solely based on team based activities. But the key word here is that you enjoy participating. I will contribute, make no mistake about that. I will contribute when I'm on a team, but I don't necessarily enjoy participating in them because then I feel like I have to speak what I'm thinking of. And I do worry how that might come across when I have one idea and other people have completely opposite ideas. You enjoy experimenting with new and untested approaches. I think that's a strong disagree for me again. I don't, I'm not someone who likes to take risks, and new and untested approaches are definitely a big risk for me there. I enjoy experimenting with some approaches if they're approaches that I have tried before and I just modify them a little bit. But new and untested, I would never enjoy experimenting those. You prioritize being sensitive over being completely honest. That's hard. I think that's a slight agree for me personally. Actually, wait. I'm gonna go neutral here because I do think being sensitive about stuff shows that you kind of care in a way, and that what the other person said might have hit a little bit differently than what they were kind of intended to approach. But being completely honest too is absolutely a key to maintain a healthy a relationship, whether it be with a friend, a parent, coworker, boss, or even your other colleagues, and your peers too. That's also very important. I think being sensitive is also important. So I'm gonna go neutral on this one because I will sometimes prioritize being sensitive, but I also prioritize being honest when I know it's going to benefit and make people around me feel happy and make just the environment a bit healthier. So we're going neutral there. You actively seek out new experiences and knowledge areas to explore. I think that's a middle disagree for me there. Just knowing the fact that I'm hesitant on taking risks and hesitant to try new things. I'm still working on that, trying to get out of my comfort zone and doing things that scare me because I know that it will make me kind of a better person in the near future when I can just take a risk and not worry about whether or not I'm going to succeed or not. I just don't actively seek out knowledge areas to explore. I think it's getting better as I make my videos and do my podcast. I'm trying to seek out new areas of things to talk about, doing some research to back up my claims. So I'm gonna go with a middle disagree. Before, maybe like a few years ago, it was probably a very heavy, strong disagree. Nowadays, I think it's just a middle disagree. And I hope that in the next couple of years or so, it's going to switch over to the slight agree or even the middle agree. But as of September 10th, it's a middle disagree. You are prone to worrying that things will take a turn for the worse. That's a slight agree for me. I don't I have a worry and a fear of the unknown. When I don't know what's going to happen in the future or even just in the next day or so, that's when I worry that things will take a turn for the worse. It's that when I don't expect the unexpected. Now, if I know that there's going to be a big storm or a big tornado and weather related thing coming in, I don't necessarily worry about that because I already know it's going to happen and I can prepare accordingly. It's just the fact that when things come up unexpected and then it just goes beyond my control, that's when I'm prone to worrying. I'm going to go slight agree on there. You enjoy solitary hobbies or activities more than group ones. That's a strong agree for me there. I like exploring things on my own, but once I've explored those hobbies or activities, then I can share them with other people. I just like taking my time and taking time to explore what I'm feeling in the moment. You cannot imagine yourself writing fictional stories for a living. I've Writing has been a hobby of mine since I was a teenager, and it's still true even in the my early 20s. I have to go with a strong disagree there because I absolutely can imagine myself writing stories for a living with the imagination and the creativity that comes with it. You favor efficiency in decisions, even if it means disregarding some emotional aspects. Ooh, I think that's a slight agree for me there. I, I'm going slight agree. I do think efficiency outweighs the emotional parts in decisions. You prefer to do your chores before allowing yourself to relax. I think that's a slight disagree there. I I do tend to put off some chores there. I'll do chores, I'll relax, and then I'll do a chore, and then I'll kind of relax again and go back and forth. I'm gonna slight disagree there because I don't think that's necessarily true regarding me. In disagreement, you prioritize proving your point over preserving the feelings of others. This is another hard one because if I'm in a disagreement with, I think disagreements with siblings, you do a lot of people do prioritize their feelings and their points over other ones. Maybe with parents too. I try not necessarily to do that. I do try to look at the other side of stuff too before trying to make my point and make myself seem like the better person or the higher person. When it comes to disagreements between friends and colleagues, however, I do have a tendency to put others' feelings above my own. I'm gonna go with the middle disagree there on that one. You usually wait for others to introduce themselves first at social gatherings. That's a strong agree there. You will never catch me introducing myself first at a social gathering or even just bypassing. It's never going to happen. Your mood can change very quickly. I think that's a strong disagree. If I'm happy and somebody says something to me that dampens my happy mood, I'll still remain happy. I don't let people's thoughts, words, or emotions necessarily get to me. I do think I have a very good kind of emotional grab where I can maintain my mood. It's just that when things sort of just build up, and then my mood can kind of change depending on that. But for the most part, if I have one mood, and even if someone says something mean or says something kind of personal, I might say that bothered me, or might say that wasn't really appreciated, but I'm not going to go full on mad, or I'm not going to be full blown angry just by one comment or one thing that might have taken a bit of a hit. I do maintain the same mood for throughout most of the day. So strong disagree for me. You are not easily swayed by emotional arguments. I'm neutral there. I am neutral. One moment, one day I can be swayed by emotional argument. The next day, if someone came to me with an emotional argument, then I kind of am just stoic to that. But it really goes one way or the other, depending on the day and depending on how I'm feeling. We have to go neutral, because I can't necessarily decipher between agreeing and disagreeing. You'll often end up doing things at the last possible moment. That's a that resonates with me very heavily. And unfortunately, I have to say, I do agree. I do end up doing things at the last possible moment. I will say that's more true in personally of doing things at the last possible moment. When it came to school and it comes to work stuff, I will try not to wait until the last moment to do things, because then you're just rushing yourself. And when you rush yourself, you're not necessarily giving yourself an opportunity to showcase and prove your best work to other people. That is something that I had to work on a lot. But I'm going a slight agree there. You enjoy debating ethical dilemmas. I don't enjoy debating other people. I think I would have been very bad at a debate club if I ever joined one in school or even just college. I don't know if I have uh, the debates in me. I will like to debate my siblings on certain stuff, though. But ethical dilemmas, I think debating anything ethical is a very tricky line, because you don't know what boundaries or what lines you are crossing or not, especially when it pertains to other people's ethics. I think that's a I think that's a strong disagree for me. We're almost at we've answered 6 out of the 10 when it comes to these question stuff. So we're more than halfway there. I'll try to speed it up a little bit because this could be long. You you usually prefer to be around others rather than on your own. I feel like if you've heard me answer questions relating to this already, you would know that that's a strong disagree for me there. Once I am around people, and I've been around people for a good chunk of time, usually more than 2 or 3 hours, then I absolutely need to have that alone time. I need time to kind of come down from it all, need time to kind of manage that social anxiety and self-soothe in a way, just so I feel comfortable going back out and being able to talk to people without kind of hiding behind a mask and hiding how I feel. So I absolutely prefer to be on my own. Just allow myself to kind of digest and take in all that's happened, and then do some breathing exercises or stuff so that I feel calm again and I feel ready to go out and be around people. You become bored or lose interest when the discussion gets highly theoretical. I'm gonna say a slight agree on that one there. I'm gonna say a slight agree. When facts and feelings conflict, you usually find yourself following your heart. I when facts and feelings conflict, you usually find yourself following your heart. I'm gonna go with a slight disagree on that one. Because I do tend, there's a saying that follow your guts or follow your heart. I what my heart's telling me, when if my heart's telling me something, I want to listen to that. But when you have that feeling in your gut, I do end up usually following that gut feeling more than the more like sensitive or the more emotional feeling. So we're going to go slight disagree there. You find it challenging to maintain a consistent work or study schedule. Back in high school, I think in high school, that would have been a very strong agree there. Maintain a work and a study schedule. Now, though, after being through college and going to work and having work jobs, that's changed to a middle disagree. I don't find it challenging anymore to maintain a work schedule because the schedule is in front of me. I go to work, I do all the tasks and do the responsibilities that are asked of me there. And it is very easy to maintain that when it's the same routine and the same schedule every single day. A study schedule, however, I got to the point where I had to find what works for me in terms of studying and in terms of doing homework. And that was going to the library and doing my work at the library where I wasn't in a familiar room. I didn't have distractions around me that I could just go and get up and mess around with. Being at the library, sitting at a computer or sitting at a table, I was able to concentrate a little bit better. I wasn't able to be easily as distracted. And that way it allowed me time to focus on what mattered the most, and that was getting my homework done, studying for exams, so I was prepared the next day rather than brushing it off completely and then being unprepared and willing to take a rest on something that I knew mattered a lot in terms of grades. You rarely second guess the choices that you have made. I second guess a lot of stuff. I second guess my choices. I second guess my feelings. I even second guess the words that come out of my mouth. That's a that's a strong disagree for me. Your friends would describe you as lively and outgoing. I think my friends would describe me as an introvert. They would describe me as very quiet and very shy and not willing and not really outgoing in the slightest bit. That's another strong disagree here. They might describe me as lively, though. I feel like if I ask my friends if I was a lively person, they would say absolutely. If they ask if I asked my friends if I was an outgoing person, they would say absolutely not. You are drawn to forms of various expressions, such as writing. That's a strong degree for me right there. I love creative expression, and writing is easily the number one on that list. You usually base your choices on objective facts rather than emotional impressions. I think that's a I think I'm a slight agree there. I'm gonna slight agree. You like to have a to-do list for each day. That's a middle disagree. I don't like lists. They do kind of scare me a little bit. But if I have a schedule and I have a to-do list at a job where I have to absolutely make sure things are done at appropriate times, then I do like having that. So that way I know that I'm doing what is asked of me. You rarely feel insecure. I feel like people who know me would assume that I get insecure a lot, but in reality, that's a strong degree. I very rarely feel insecure. I know what I am. I know what other people are. I can't compare myself to others because that's just not being true to myself. And that's also being a bit biased to other people when I try to compare myself to them and try to put somebody's worth over the other. I I don't really get that insecure about stuff because I know I'm not perfect and I know that there's ample opportunity to grow and develop there. You avoid making phone calls. That's a middle disagree for me. I will make phone calls when I absolutely have to make phone calls, and I can't just do it in the form of a text message or even in the form of an email. But I don't like making phone calls. I don't really like talking to people over the phone. I do prefer to do it in person, which doesn't make any sense given how I also don't like talking to strangers in person either. But when I absolutely have to make a phone call, I will, but I will try to avoid them as much as I can if it's not absolutely necessary. We're going to go middle agree. You enjoy exploring unfamiliar ideas and viewpoints. I like hearing out other people's ideas and viewpoints. I don't necessarily like exploring them without clear evidence and having just a little bit of background information on those topics. I think that's a middle disagree. You easily connect with people you have just met. That's a middle agree for me there. I can strike up a conversation once I get to talking to people and kind of understanding their feelings and their emotions and their views on certain stuff. So I am able to build a connection with them that way. It's only after it's only after the conversation that has happened then I'm able to connect. I can't connect with somebody right away without having a conversation with them first, if that makes sense. If your plans are interrupted, your priority is to get back on track as soon as possible. I think I think that's a slight disagree. I do try to get back on track if somebody or something pulls me away for a moment, but I also do kind of stay on that. I also do kind of stay behind on those plans if they do get interrupted. I I try my hardest to get back on track, but that's not always the case. So that's a slight disagree. You are still bothered by mistakes that you made a long time ago. I try not to let the past get the best of me. I Once it's in the past, it's in the past, and then I can only look ahead to the future. Some of my mistakes do stick with me, and usually those are very small mistakes. I have to go a slight agree. You are not too interested in discussing theories on what the world could look like in the future. That's a slight agree for me there. I Again, having the fear of the unknown, I'm scared of envisioning what the future will look like in even just a month. Looking what the world could look like in the next 10 or 15 years absolutely terrifies me. I don't think it's even a slight agree. I think that's a middle agree for me there as of not being interested. Your emotions control you more than you control them. I feel very confident in saying that that is a strong disagree for me. I control my emotions a lot. Even when people get on my nerves and test my patience, I do still remain in control of my emotions because I know letting go of them is only going to cause more harm than good. Sometimes they do control me. They control me, I think, in just personal settings. Out in public, that's not that's not the case. So I'm going to strongly disagree. When making decisions, you focus more on how the affected people might feel than on what is more logical or efficient. That's an agree for me here. Again, I do like having the facts and having logic of decisions and what makes the most sense, but I'm also an empathetic person, and how I also worry about how people that I'm affecting might feel in that situation too. I'm gonna go with a slight agree. We're almost done, guys. I think we just have one more section here. Your personal work style is closer to spontaneous bursts of energy than organized and consistent efforts. That's a that is a slight disagree for me here. I don't think my work style is like bursts of energy spontaneously. I think it is a little bit more organized and consistent, just in terms of the kind of work that I do. When someone thinks highly of you, you wonder how long it will take them to feel disappointed in you. That's a slight agree for me again. People can think the world of me, but I also worry how long it will take for them to be feel disappointed, and how easily and how quick that I could just mess up and ruin what I have going for me. You would love a job that requires you to work alone most of the time. Strong agree there. I would love a job that required me to work alone most of the time, just so I can be in my own little bubble, be in my own little space, and then being able to work by myself. So that way I can think and I can kind of process stuff on my own, rather than having people hovering around me and getting inside my head. I'm going to strong agree. Do you believe that pondering abstract philosophical questions is a waste of time? I don't think it's a waste of time for some people, but to other people, it can be. I'm neutral there. You feel more drawn to busy, bustling atmospheres than to quiet, intimate places. That's a strong disagree. I cannot function. I do not function well in busy, bustling atmospheres. I get very overwhelmed easily. That social anxiety also kicks in, and then I'm just left feeling very nervous and very on edge. But if I'm in a quiet, intimate place, then I don't have all those noises kind of distracting me and bothering me. I There's more time for me to think. There's more time for me to just feel very calm and poised. And then I'm able to kind of have those conversations with people when when everything is not just go 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 very all the time. If a decision feels right to you, you often act on it without needing further proof. I do think I need some facts to back stuff off. I just can't take people's word for it. But if a decision feels right to me, I have to go with a slight disagree. If a decision feels right, um, I do act on it sometimes. More often than not, though, I just need further proof that I'm making the right choice in the moment, and that I'm not going to regret jumping the gun right away. Okay, this is the last one. I lied. This is step 10 out of 10. So just a few more. And these are also short, a little bit shorter questions here. You often feel overwhelmed. That's neutral. I feel overwhelmed if I'm in loud and busy atmospheres, but if I'm in quiet and poised atmospheres, then I very rarely feel overwhelmed. That's neutral. You complete things methodically without skipping over any steps. I think that's a slight disagree. I do think I tend to skip over some steps, but I also do try to complete things in order. That way I don't worry about missing a question or missing a step that is crucial to either just work, crucial to a project assignment, and so forth. You prefer tasks that require you to come up with creative solutions rather than follow concrete steps. I do like tasks that allow me to come up with creative solutions. If it's pertaining to me and me only, if it's pertaining to other people and other people are involved, I I do like the concrete steps. That way I know that everyone is going to come out of it unharmed. Everyone is going to be kind of on the same boat, and then we're all sharing that same solution by the end. That's a middle. That's a middle disagree for me. You are more likely to rely on emotional intuition than logical reasoning when making a choice. Again, back in high school, I would have followed my emotional intuition 99% of the time. But now, growing up as an adult and adulting, I've learned that logical reasoning also makes the most sense. There's when the logic has to be there when you make a choice. I just can't go based off of simultaneously or based off of an impromptu choice or decision. I that's a middle disagree for me right now. You struggle with deadlines. When I have a deadline pertaining to work and to school, I will make sure that I hit it either right on that deadline or before that deadline. I struggled with deadlines in high school. I struggled with deadlines in middle school. But again, adulting, being through college, and now having a job now, deadlines are very, very important. And I'm learning that the more I work and reflecting on my college experience. I don't think I struggle with deadlines as heavily as I do anymore. So I'm gonna go with a slight disagree. You feel confident that things will work out for you. The future is the future is unknown. It's unknown for everybody. I don't know what my future will look like in 5 years. I don't think anyone's gonna know what their future will look like in 5 years. I do have hope that things will work out for me, though. And I hope that other people feel the same way. And that even though there's a complete unknown in the world out there, that we are still confident that our lives can be turned around and that things will be able to work out for us. I do feel confident that things will work out for me. I hope that they work out for me. And even if they don't, if within the next few years, I have confidence that things will work out within the next 5 or the next 10 years. I think that's a middle disagree for me. And then we're going to do that, and we're going to see our results. Your personality type. Okay, so I finished the test, and now we're going to see what my personality type is. My personality type is virtuoso. Virtuoso. Am I saying that right? It's an ISTPA. As an ISTP, a virtuoso, you are a bold explorer of the tangible world, driven by a restless curiosity to understand how things work. I think that is true. Your hands on approach to life is matched only by your adaptability, allowing you to navigate challenges with a unique blend of practical logic and spontaneous creativity. You thrive on solving immediate problems, your mind, a toolbox of skills and knowledge ready to be applied at a moment's notice. Your independent nature is one of your defining characteristics. You prefer to chart your own course, relying on your sharp analytical skills and hands on experience rather than conventional wisdom or others' opinions. This self reliance, combined with your natural resourcefulness, often leads you to innovative solutions that others might overlook. Oh, that's cool. Here. So, your personality traits. My energy is 93% introverted, 7% extroverted. That doesn't come as a shock to me there. I am a heavily introverted person, so being 93% introverted does make sense. My mind is 65 observant. And I think if I can do math here, I think it's 65% observant. It says here, you're likely pragmatic and down to earth with a strong focus on what is happening or very likely to happen there. Introverted, you likely prefer fewer yet deep and meaningful social interactions and feel drawn to calmer environments. Well, that makes a lot of sense. My nature is 54% thinking. You likely focus on objectivity and rationality, playing effectiveness over social harmony. 54%, that does make sense to me. My tactics is 54% judging. You're likely very adaptable, easygoing, and flexible, prioritizing spontaneity over stability. And then identity, I'm 60% assertive. You're likely self-assured, even-tempered, and resistant to stress, refusing to worry too much. While you excel in crisis situations and short-term projects, long-term planning can sometimes feel like an unnecessary constraint. Your love for freedom and dislike of rigid structures can occasionally lead to challenges, especially in environments that demand strict adherence to rules or long-term commitments. However, this same trait can also give you the flexibility to adapt quickly to changing circumstances. Your approach to life is fundamentally practical, yet far from mundane. You have a unique ability to find excitement in mastering new skills and tackling hands-on challenges. This combination of practicality and thrill-seeking often leads you to interesting hobbies and career paths that others might find daunting. Your life is a constant balance between your need for independence and the practical demands of the world around you. Okay, let's see. My career path here, it says, your career path may not be straightforward. Your strong desire for autonomy can make traditional office environments challenging, and you may find yourself restless in roles that involve too much routine or abstract theorizing. Your ideal career allows you to apply your skills in dynamic, ever-changing situations, offering the freedom to approach tasks in your own unique way. While this might lead to unconventional career choices, it's also what enables you to truly shine in your professional life. In your professional life, you thrive in environments that offer hands-on work and tangible results. Your natural aptitude for understanding complex systems makes you an invaluable troubleshooter in fields ranging from mechanics to computer science. You excel in roles that require quick thinking and practical problem solving, often becoming the go-to person in crisis situations. And then that is it for that. So that was the test. I am an ISTPA. So introverted. I forget what the other three were right away, but I know there's observant, I believe thinking, and assertive. So that's my personality type. I know these tests aren't always 100% accurate, but they can be, they're accurate as much as they can be. Is that my very true personality? Not necessarily. I think that there's some things that I feel a bit different on than what the test results showed me, but it's the best representation of what my personality is like. And that's the end of this episode. Thanks again for watching. Thanks again for listening. I hope that you learned a little bit about my personality through that test. And it was just a fun way to celebrate, again, 20 main episodes on the podcast. I will be back with main episodes every week. This was just a celebration episode. Next week, we'll get back into the sports world. I do have some ideas of topics that I'd like to explore. You can check those out soon. I do have my season 2 segment of Bold Predictions that's on YouTube only. I'm doing that every week as well throughout the NFL season. It's basically where I make predictions on the weeks of the NFL. I try to predict which teams will win and see how many I get right. I did a video just yesterday where I reviewed my predictions from week one, saw how well I did, and then went to make my predictions for week two. You can check that out on the channel right now. Bold predictions. I try to upload bold predictions either on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. I try to do it before Thursday night football. I know last week I uploaded it right after Thursday night football began due to some issues on scheduling wise on my end. But this week I got it uploaded well before Thursday. You can check those out again. Just that's YouTube only. You can listen to the Age for Waves podcast on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, and on Spotify. I have the Spotify down below in the description. But thanks so much for being with me, for hearing me talk. And I will see you on a brand new episode next week.